Das SPOBIS Podcast Special.
Warm welcome, Mark.
Thank you.
I know you understood everything I said, so I just excused myself for my English. My colleague here on the left, Matthias Jahn, Senior Director, Business Innovation and Digital Ad Services at Sportfive.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome. And Mark, we just discussed your title, and you got a lot, and it's the Associate Vice President, Head of Partnership, der NBA in Europe. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah. Thank you.
Fine. Thank you very much. And the topic here is how to get the next generation fan. What is the NBA doing, and why is the partnership with Sportfive so important to get this target group, right? Let's have a look back to the last weekend, basketball. Matthias is a huge fan, and what was your impression on the court?
Yeah, it was great witnessing such a tournament. I think it's the wrong winner. I don't want to be. I have to be a sportsman. I think it's great that Germany made the third place, with great games against Greece and all that stuff. But the last game against Poland was not that good. I think we have to use the momentum right now and build up upon that, and we are doing that with the NBA, I think.
Mark, what was your opinion about the matches you saw on TV?
Well, unfortunately, we didn't get to see that many games in GB because the GB team got knocked out early. But obviously, you know, we've seen that it was very successful for Germany, ultimately, I guess, getting third place. But as Matthias said, it seemed to create a lot of momentum within Germany, a lot of interest. It's great to see so many NBA players playing in various teams as well in the tournament. I think that demonstrates the strength of this region in providing players to the NBA. And that's something as the NBA that we're looking to try and capitalise on if we can.
So how important do you think is the impact that these matches had for basketball in Europe, and especially in Germany?
I think it's significant. Yeah, I think it's significant. I mean, you know, we know, I think from our research, that NBA fans have strong affinities with players from their local markets, particularly European fans. So, you know, fans of Giannis are going to follow the Bucks, but they're also going to follow the fortunes of Greece. So I think it's important. I think it helps demonstrate relevance. It keeps the sport relevant, particularly now with the football season starting. So I think for us that it creates a really significant platform to build on.
1 year ago, you started the partnership, NBA and Sportfive.
I mean, I think to take a step back. I mean, why it's about why we chose Germany first. I think is. We, you know, from an NBA point of view, we tried to prioritise 5 key markets in Europe, which are based on, I think, the opportunity around media, the opportunity in terms of the fan base, the opportunity in terms of the affinity to basketball as a sport. Those 5 markets, in no specific order, are Italy, France, Germany, Spain and the UK. We have an office in London, so that covers the UK. We have a small office, 6 or 7 people in Madrid, so that covers Spain. France, we obviously have had the Paris game in 2020, and we're coming back in 23 with another Paris game, so that sort of covers France off. And then we have a similar partnership with another agency in Italy, which has really it's delivered sort of 2 significant partnerships for us in that market. So Germany was really the one that was missing. So we were really keen to try and have a partnership in Germany. When we took a look at the market, I think the important things for us in a partnership were working with a trusted partner who has a strong network within the market and has got the ability to be able to get the NBA and the NBA's proposition in front of brands. And Sportfive, for us, were the obvious choice to do that. So we're really pleased with how the partnership started. But there was important reasons why we chose Germany as well as why we chose Sportfive.
Matthias, I know you're a big basketball fan, but now you have to talk about business and basketball. What were your approach when it came to this partnership? We talked earlier, and you said, well, it's very individual. It's really creative. It's a new approach from the NBA in Germany. So, how did you get involved in this case?
I was very lucky to get involved, to be honest, and it was like starting a new relationship with a lot of butterflies in my stomach. But I think it's totally different to other approaches we have in Germany, as we are pretty excellent when it comes to football. We are good in basketball, but the NBA is not really a tangible product, to be honest. We have one of the biggest sports brands in the world. And we have a logo, and we have a lot of franchises, and we have a European game which comes up next year. But it's not like we have a stadium where you have matches every weekend and we have LED panels. So we need individual approaches using the social media buzz the NBA has and all that stuff. And we don't have off-the-shelf inventory. We have like individual approaches which we have to define together with the NBA. And this is working pretty good in a close partnership, I think. So it's pretty different, and I'm not really a salesperson, to be honest. I'm more a product person, and so it's about defining these products for the NBA, and that's the main challenge we have here, but it's a nice challenge.
I bet. Let's talk about this last summer. You had an event in Berlin that was pretty special. Mark, please tell us about what happened in Berlin with the NBA and Hennessy.
Well, it was part of a sort of a bigger campaign that Hennessy did globally, where they were trying to create interest around the NBA partnership through building courts in different locations, and essentially they were sort of pop-up courts. So in Berlin, they created an activation around a pop-up court there. The idea was to try and get influencers, celebrities down to create sort of interest socially and on digital around that event. It mirrored what they did in London, where they had a floating court on the River Thames in London. They did something similar in Africa as well. So, I mean, we were really pleased from a NBA point of view that we had a global partner that was sort of committed to activate in various regions. Fortunately for us, in Europe, they chose two regions, two areas. Sorry, one was Berlin and one was London. But I think, you know, we and hopefully we'll get onto it later, but, you know, increasingly we're working with partners to deliver these activations to fans, and it's really the part that partners play in helping bring it to life is really important for us.
Matthias, what is I know you don't like the word challenging, but you have on the one side the big brand NBA with a huge followership, and on the other side you want to activate and reach the GenZ, the next generation fan. How do you challenge that?
We have to identify the usage patterns, and they are totally different. I think when it comes to social media channels, we are not talking about Facebook or Instagram anymore. Well, Instagram, we are talking about that. That's not right, but more about TikTok and all that stuff. And we have to understand that and how we can leverage it. So it's not just like the LED signage on the court. It's about stories. And then you have to convince potential partners of these approaches. It's not... Just take Hennessy. Mm-hmm. It's if you say, okay, you're a partner of the NBA and you can do some good activations, it's easier to put your logo on the court or on the basket or whatever. It's much more difficult to do such an activation as it was done on the River Thames or in Berlin. And so it's like, that's what I meant with tailor-made. We have to discuss it and we have to make it tangible and buyable. Mm-hmm. And that's the main challenge we are facing right now. And for the younger generation, it's to understand totally different usage patterns.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good point. And I think, you know, when we first spoke to Sportfive, you know, I think they were quite keen to understand sort of case studies and what we've done with partners before. And we have got a lot of good case studies, but every single one is different. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what we're trying to bring to the market, and that's what we're trying when we engage with brands. That's what we're trying to get across, that we can provide a number of different examples of what we've done with brands, but actually what we're trying to do is something that works for you and your brand at that specific time. So it needs to be something that is pretty tailor-made. It needs to be something that's original, but it also needs to be something that the brand is going to help support as well. So there needs to be, I think, from the brand's point of view, you know, some sense of how are we going to activate this. It's not just a case of putting your logo on and hoping for the best. So it's a different approach, I think, to some rights holders take. But I think it's one that works for us, and it's one that we we found to be successful in Europe, particularly with the type of different brands that we've worked with as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, you already have a heritage here in Germany. Matthias has actually white paper in front of you with some ideas. Yeah. You have some ideas that needs to be done, like a store in Berlin. But you said, well, it's not only a store. We need to put content around it.
Well, the store is, I think we've announced we're obviously going to bring the store. We're looking for it to open probably the first week in November now, because it's in a new shopping mall, and the mall opens then as well. It will be the biggest store we have in Europe, and it's only the fourth one we've opened in Europe. So we have one in Milan, we have one in London, and this summer we open one in Paris. The difference with the Berlin store is it's going to be around about 1,000 square meters, which gives us a much bigger space, I think, because of the location as well. I think there's the opportunity for partners to sort of work with us and use that space internally to create activations for people that are going to come into the store. We're working with Lids, who are obviously a big sort of global retailer as well, to deliver the store. And I think at this point in time, you know, we're open to ideas. I think from partners. I think the store gives us a great platform to work with a brand on. But it's just how we do that and how we bring that to life that we need to work with partners on. I think the first stage is getting the store up and running, which hopefully from the first week in November it will be, and then from then on, you know, bringing brands down there and showing them what can be done, and then, as I've said, it's pretty much working on a case by case basis with brands to see what they could do or how they feel they could bring that space to life.
And may I add one thing to that?
You can.
It's like you just have to imagine. When I first heard about the store, I thought, okay, like seems a little bit outdated, but it's totally not. As like online shopping is a pretty lonely thing to do. You're clicking on your own and you're buying on your own. Shopping together at a store is a pretty great event. It can be. And I think the advantage the NBA has with such a store is to show its variety as well with the different franchises which will be at the store as well with the brands and the logos. So it's like to have this point of contact in one vibrant city like Berlin is from now on, I think, a great approach the longer I thought about it.
Yeah, and I think that there's a couple of things as well with how we're going about the store. So, you know, there is the opportunity within the store to personalise caps and jerseys, and we've done that in London, and that's proved really popular. We'll also be looking to sort of create some specific, you know, German market, Berlin merchandise as well that can only be bought at the store. So I think we're trying to make it a destination where people want to go, not just to buy stuff that they could buy online, that there'll be things there that will be pretty unique to that store as well.
Mm-hmm. All right, so the store's going to be open in November?
Yeah, hopefully.
All right. So, if we come to November, the next year is not far away.
Yeah.
You plan a big game in Paris.
So the game is in January 23. It will be the second time we've come to Paris. So the first game was in 2020. We've obviously, unfortunately, had a bit of a gap because of COVID. But the plan was always to come back. We're now back with the Bulls and the Pistons. So a big sort of traditional, historic rivalry between those two franchises. Two huge teams. And it will be at the Accor Arena. What we normally do around games, and we're planning to do around this one as well, is we almost try and make it like a week-long fan activities in Paris around the game. So we are planning to do like a fan house, an NBA house, I think, for want of a better term, where we'll have activations all week long. We also do a number of CSR activities around the game through our NBA Cares platform, which we will do. And you know, we're just for us, I think the game in many respects is like like our European All-Star. So we need to try and maximise that opportunity that we have around the game, because at the moment, you know, we only have one regular season game in market. Interestingly, this year is the first year that we'll have games in Abu Dhabi, because our market also covers the Middle East. So in a month's time, we'll have the Hawks and the Bucks in Abu Dhabi playing 2 back-to-back pre-season games as well. So we've managed to bring more games to the region. They're not regular season games, they're pre-season games, and they're in Abu Dhabi. But I think for us as a region, that's a really significant step forward. If we were able to, it'd be great to bring more regular season games, but because of the scheduling, at the moment it's limited to one. But we try and make the game an NBA Europe game rather than an NBA Paris game, because we want that game to sort of be something that appeals to people across the whole region. And from ticket sales, we see that there is a significant number of people that buy tickets from outside of France to travel, just as there was when we had the game in London. There was people outside the UK who travelled. So the appeal's there, and we just need to maximise the opportunity that game gives us.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Matthias, I know when we talked about the game, you said, well, okay, the Bulls and the Pistons...
in terms of trophies they won in the last decade, I think. But growing up in the 90s with Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen and Dennis Rodman is like the Chicago Bulls are, from my point of view, the greatest team in basketball.
And the Pistons?
Still. But I'm a little bit jealous that they are playing in Paris, and we should have perhaps in the future a game in Germany, hoping that happens. But it's a great opportunity, I think, for brands to get involved. In Paris. It's a great city. I think we have a great arena there, and there are a lot of opportunities to get in touch with the legends and all that stuff. I think Paris is a great game, and we see that. I don't want to mention the 3 bad letters, but the NFL is doing it, and a lot of people are traveling to London, people are traveling to Munich, and we should leverage that for basketball as well. And I think there's a great chance, as we are witnessing the momentum right now, and people are watching basketball, and basketball is a sport that is a lot more dynamic, a lot more thrilling, I think. That's my point of view. And it shouldn't be just Paris, it should be Berlin in the future, but that's what the NBA has to decide.
And on US basketball, you can always see like actors, prominent people, musicians on the sideline. Is that something that you could imagine and wish for a game in Berlin, for example?
It's not just about the people, I think. I would wish that, as we have some big stars in Germany as well, who could be a platform and influencers for that. But it's also about the topic. I think sport is the platform which combines music, art, and all that stuff. And especially basketball does that to the youth culture. And I think that's very important to reach out to the younger generation, as we have, like Snoop Dogg is a regular at the Lakers games. He's always sitting there, I think. And it's like, if Snoop Dogg does that as an influencer, I might do this as well. And perhaps in Germany it's Capital Bra, I don't know. And he's attending a match. And so it's a great lever to use these influencers to get attention for the NBA, of course.
I think the last... I'm just testing my memory here, but the last time we came to Germany for the... we bought the Spurs and they played Alba Berlin, and I think Alba Berlin won actually. But I remember Lady Gaga she was playing in Berlin, I think, that the same time, and so she was courtside for that game, and that was a pre-season game. And the last time we were in Paris, we had Neymar, we had Mbappe, we had Thiago Silva, we had half the Paris Saint-Germain team were there as well, plus people from the music side of the business as well. So I think where we try and position ourselves and where we see ourselves a bit differently is the NBA is it's a sports and entertainment brand, and it attracts people across music, lifestyle, fashion, and a number of events that we've done outside of games. We've tried to really play on that, and we've tried to really highlight the influence that the NBA has had beyond the sport. And I think that's a really valuable and unique selling point for us. I think certain other sports, maybe the Super Bowl, maybe the World Cup final, big events around sports, you get the same thing. But for the NBA, it's all it's regular season games, as Matthias was saying for the Lakers. So I think that's a really important point of difference for us, and one that we're really trying to maximise as much as we can.
And as you talk about maximization, it's talk about diversity. It's a big topic as well. The WNBA. I
mean, we're talking to our colleagues in New York about how we can, I think how they can really truly make the W global. And for them, I think that involves, the ability to take teams to markets, They acknowledge that, again, within the W, there's players from all over the world. There's players from Germany, there's players from everywhere. So I think that the potential's there. I think at the moment, how that looks is still up for debate, but I think there's a willingness on our side, and because we think there's an opportunity to be able to talk to brands and potential partners in Germany and in Europe more widely about the W as a property, because we all know how popular women's sport is. We all know how important women's sport is, particularly being in the UK and seeing the success of the European Championships, soccer in the summer. It's a huge opportunity for us, and I think it's one that we need to make more of. The W has been a successful league in the US for a long time. We just haven't really used it to go global, or even in Europe to talk to brands. And so we're trying to do that as much as we can with Sportfive now, where we don't just want to talk to brands about the NBA. We want to talk to them about the WNBA as well. And we also have other properties as well. We have the G League, which is the development league in the US. So we should, I think, be much more offering a holistic approach to the properties that we have, and not just focusing exclusively on the NBA.
Let's go on a journey. Next year, same date. Where are we? What cases could you imagine? What is your plan?
I can imagine a lot. But the brands have to get on board to realize it. That's in the first place. But I think it would be great to make a deal with WNBA, because it would show a sign into the market how important women's sports is. And I think that would be a great opportunity to show it's not just about the reach of the NBA and the logo of the NBA and all that stuff. It's about totally different logos, totally different cities, totally different franchises, and women's sports. But another topic is like sustainability. I think NBA could be a platform here as well to do that. But there are so many approaches. We have one of my favorite approaches the NBA took is the refurbished courts, together with Foot Locker, and they did that in UK and the US. It's great, because basketball is such an easy game. You need a ball and a basket. And if you have a court, you can play it. And so if the NBA takes the social responsibility to refurbish these courts, it's great. It hasn't happened in Germany right now, but I would love to see it here in Germany. And I think as it is something like a special topic for me, it would be something I would like to push it that way. But we have to see. As we said, it's very individual, and we have to see what the brands want to do and which approach fits best. But I think we should push into this direction. And next year I would like to show a case with women basketball, and perhaps a case with refurbished courts would be great.
Yeah, I mean the refurbished courts example is a good one, because with Foot Locker, Foot Locker are a European partner now. They're not a US partner anymore of the NBA, so it's just with us. It's just our region they have a partnership with. And they last summer the project was to refurbish courts in London, Barcelona, and Paris, and then they built on that this summer by actually now we're going back and we've done 3-on-3 tournaments with them. So it's not just about building a nice court and the court looks nice and it just stays there. It's about trying to actually utilise that court. And for them, that was a perfect activation, because first of all you create the facility. But then also you come back and you create content for that facility as well by having this 3-on-3 tournament. So it was sort of a successive summer of activations with Foot Locker around the courts. But yeah, that's probably the most visible example, I think, of how we can activate in communities and help sort of give back to the communities and do projects that genuinely have some social responsibility attached to them.
How important are those cities like Berlin, Paris, or could you imagine to go to Paderborn maybe, which is pretty small?
If I knew where it was, I could imagine it, but I don't know where it is.
No, but we talk about the urban cities where you can reach the younger generation, the next generation fan. So this is your main focus, the bigger cities.
Again, I think we are led by our partners, and I think Foot Locker specifically, their focus is those big cities, and I think, interestingly for them, but Berlin might be somewhere that's next on the list for that reason. When we do activations with Nike, it's the same. They tend to focus on the bigger cities. Having said that, the grassroots initiative that we do, Junior NBA League, in Germany, it's just that it's in its infancy. So we just have one league, which is in Hamburg. But in other countries like the UK, for example, and Italy, we have over 20 leagues, and they are everywhere. They're not just in the main cities; they're across the country. So our desire, I think, is to go as wide as we can. I think where we sometimes focus on the main cities is because that's where the partner that we choose to work with, that's where their objective is. It's more led by them necessarily than led by us.
So it's a challenging project, right?
It is, but it's fun.
Okay, is it an advantage to have first the focus on bigger cities and then spread it out, or would you say, oh, well, I don't know, I have a different approach, I can pick up the next generation somewhere else?
I don't want to offend Paderborn, but I think Berlin is more of a longing place for young people, for creative people to go to. And I think so this approach might be a good way of leveraging the image of the city, and then we can take it to Paderborn and Detmold and I don't know.
Okay, just examples. Do you have any questions to Mark or Matthias? Feel free to ask.
One of the most popular items that we have now is, I don't know whether you've seen it, but there's like an orange hoodie for the WNBA, which is literally just an orange hoodie with the WNBA mark on, and that's it. But that whenever we get those in, that is really, really popular. And I'm not sure that would be the same elsewhere necessarily. And then the other thing I was going to say is, we've worked, when we do licensed ranges with licensees, we did one with Tommy Jeans this summer. But that range, a few of the items in that range are multiple logos. You're right. There are multiple different team logos on there, and that's the licensee telling us that's what people want. That's what will sell. So again, I think a lot of it is driven by what people want. It's not necessarily our approach. We're reacting to the marketplace, but it's also our licensees telling us as well when we give them the opportunity, because they could use one mark, they could use the NBA, but they choose to, and in a lot of instances, to use multiple team marks because that's actually where the appeal is. So that's the NBA answer, but you can do the Bundesliga answer.
Yeah, I think the Bundesliga has to change its focus away from short-term revenue-driven to strategic-driven. And I think if you open up a store, it might be a great place to meet fans and to sell direct to the consumer. I think we have to change the mindset here, because it's not about licensee revenues, it's about like direct to consumer revenues. And I think it might work, but I'm not sure if it works in New York, as there are different kind of brands. I don't want to offend any of the Bundesliga brands, but I think Dortmund and Bayern Munich will be the main merchandise which will be sold, and then we have to look. Okay, so I think it might be a model, but the Bundesliga has to do some other homework before that.
Well, we have. I mean, across Europe, one of the approaches we've taken, which has been, way before I joined. So I'm not going to take any credit for it, but it's to try and localize the channels as much as possible. So we have local Facebook and Twitter channels in most languages in the main markets in Germany. We have Instagram is across the whole of Europe, so that's not sort of localized by market. But we would probably use those social channels to drive a lot of the content that came from around there. We also obviously we partner with the brands as well. So the Foot Locker refurbished courts, as much of the content that's created on there is being pushed out through Foot Locker channels as it is through NBA channels. But as much as we can, we try and localize it as much as possible to make it relevant for a specific market. And obviously in Europe, with the challenges around languages, you need to do that. We can't just necessarily push everything out on a European platform in English. We need to make sure that for particular markets that content is relevant and in local language.
I say thank you very much, Matthias. Thank you very much, Mark, for those insights, and thank you very much for the audience here, and hope you enjoyed it a little bit. Thank you.
Das war das SPOBIS Podcast Special.